So you built weapons to fight nightmares, Velshan said slowly, understanding beginning to show in his scale colors. We built weapons to make nightmares think twice before attacking us, Kyle corrected. The Kryn hegemony has fought 3 major wars and won all of them. You're famous for your military victories. But tell me how many of those wars were total wars? Wars where losing meant complete extinction. Velshan thought about this. None, he admitted. Our wars were about conquest or defense. We fought to win territory or protect our borders, but never for pure survival. Never with the knowledge that losing meant our entire species would cease to exist. Humanity has fought dozens of total wars, Kyle explained. Wars where losing meant the end of nations, cultures, entire ways of life. We learned to fight like cornered animals because we were cornered animals over and over throughout our history. And when we finally reached the stars, we brought that survival instinct with us. We brought our fear and our preparation. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. One of Velshan's team members, a tactical analyst named Jexel, spoke up. But your species has only been traveling in space for 40 years. How did you develop such advanced weapons so quickly? Technology like causality manipulation should take thousands of years to develop. Annie smiled, but it was a sad smile. Because we didn't start from scratch when we reached space? Every weapon you saw has roots in theories we developed in the 20th and 21st centuries. When we still lived on just one planet, we had designs for nuclear weapons before we had computers. We theorized about quantum mechanics while still using telegraph wires to communicate. We dreamed up antimatter bombs, reality manipulation, dimensional weapons. All while we were still learning to fly primitive aircraft. Why? Jexel asked. Why think about such weapons when you couldn't even leave your planet? Because we were thinking about how to kill each other more efficiently, Kyle said bluntly. We weren't thinking about aliens or space wars. We were thinking about how to defeat other humans. Nation against nation, ideology against ideology. We spent centuries developing better and better ways to destroy ourselves. When we finally stopped fighting each other and unified, we had centuries of weapons research already completed. We just had to build it. Velshan shook his head slowly. Your species is terrifying. Not because you're evil or cruel, but because you think about warfare the way other species think about art or philosophy. It's woven into your culture. Yes, Kyle agreed. And that's exactly why you should accept our defensive classification and work with us instead of against us. Because we understand war better than species that have been peaceful for thousands of years. We know what it looks like. We know what it costs. And we know how to win it if we have no other choice. The room fell silent for a long moment. Finally, Velshan spoke again. The Council will ask me to make a recommendation. Many species will want me to recommend restrictions on humanity. Sanctions, monitoring, maybe even military containment. They're afraid of what you might do with these weapons. And what will you recommend? Kyle asked. Velshan's scale slowly changed to a deep, respectful blue. I will recommend Level 7 defensive classification. I will also recommend that humanity be integrated into galactic security forces, not as a threat to be contained, but as a partner to be carefully engaged with. Kyle looked surprised. Why? After everything you saw, why would you trust us? Because in 40 years of evaluating species and their military capabilities, I've learned something important, Velshan explained. The most dangerous civilizations aren't those that develop powerful weapons. Anyone with enough time and resources can build weapons. The truly dangerous ones are those that build powerful weapons, but lack the wisdom to control them. Humans have shown me arsenals that genuinely frighten me, but you've also shown me restraint. You haven't used these weapons, even though there were probably times when using them would have been easier or more profitable. He stood up, his scales now showing blue mixed with green, which meant respect mixed with hope. That restraint is more impressive than any doomsday weapon. You could have used your causality manipulation to rewrite trade agreements in your favor. You could have used your bioweapons to eliminate competitor species. You could have threatened the Council with your Horizon Cannon to get better treatment. But you didn't. You followed the rules. You played fair. And then you warned us about your capabilities and invited us to inspect them. We're not angels, we're tactician. We've done bad things in our history, terrible things. But we learned from them. We learned that unlimited power without responsibility leads to destruction. We learned that the strongest military means nothing if you're not willing to show restraint. Velshan nodded. The galaxy needs protectors who understand the true cost of war, who know that every weapon fired, every life taken, every planet destroyed has consequences that ripple through time. Humanity understands that cost better than any species I've met. You've paid it over and over with your own blood on your own soil. As Velshan prepared to leave, he turned back to face the two humans. I will tell the Council something else as well. Humanity isn't a threat because you're aggressive or violent. You're a threat because you're survivors. And survivors will do absolutely anything to ensure their survival. The Council needs to understand that. If they try to contain you, threaten you, corner you, they'll create the exact situation humanity has spent 200 years preparing to fight. A cornered humanity with nothing to lose is the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Al nodded slowly. We don't want to be that force war tactician. We want to be partners, protectors. We want to use our weapons to defend, not attack. But we need the Council to meet us halfway. We need trust. Trust is earned, Velshan said. You've started earning it today. Now, we'll see if the Council is wise enough to accept it. After Velshan left, Danny and Kyle sat in silence for a while. Finally, Danny spoke. Do you think they'll accept his recommendation? Or will they try to sanction us? Kyle stared at the wall, thinking, some will accept it. The military minds, the ones who've actually fought wars, they'll understand. But the politicians, the idealists who think peace is the natural state of the universe, they'll push for restrictions. They'll see our weapons and think we're one bad day away from becoming galactic villains. Maybe we are, Danny said quietly. Maybe Kyle agreed. But we're also one bad day away from saving the galaxy from something it's not prepared to fight. That's the gamble the Council has to make. Do they trust that we'll use our weapons only when necessary? Or do they assume we'll use them the first chance we get? Danny stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. We've given them everything, shown them every secret, laid bare every weapon system. If they still don't trust us after that, then maybe we're not meant to be part of the galactic community. Then we'll stand alone, Kyle said, like we always have. Earth against the universe. Humans doing what humans do best, surviving against impossible odds. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Danny replied. Let's hope, Kyle agreed. But both of them knew that hope was just another word for preparation. And humans were very, very good at preparing for the worst. 6 weeks passed after the inspection ended. During that time, the Galactic Council argued and debated behind closed doors. Some members wanted to punish humanity for developing such dangerous weapons. Others wanted to study human technology. A few wise voices argued for acceptance and integration. The debate was so intense that the Council called for a full session, requiring every member species to send their highest representatives. The chamber was packed when the day finally came. Beings from every corner of the galaxy filled the seats, and the air felt heavy with anticipation. This wasn't just about humanity's defensive classification anymore. It was about how the galaxy would treat a species that thought differently about security and survival. Ambassador. Kyle Harrison stood once again at the human delegation podium. Captain Danny Morris and Dr. Lisa Grant stood beside him. Across the vast chamber, war tactician Velshan waited to deliver his report. His scales were a formal blue-gray, the color of official duty. Council Speaker Jathan called the session to order. Her crystalline form caught the light and scattered it in serious patterns across the chamber walls. We gathered today to hear the findings of the survey delegation to Earth. War tactician Velshan of the Kryn hegemony. Please present your report. Velshan walked to the central platform. Every eye, sensor, and awareness in the room focused on him. Honored council members, he began, his voice steady. I have completed the most disturbing weapons assessment of my entire career. A wave of whispers spread through the chamber. Velshan continued, I have witnessed weapons that violate our understanding of ethical warfare. I have seen technologies that could end not just civilizations, but reality itself. The human species has created arsenals that, in the wrong hands, could threaten every living being in this galaxy. The chamber erupted. Several delegates immediately called for sanctions, quarantine, even military action against Earth. Some demanded that humanity be expelled from the Council. Others wanted human technology seized and destroyed. Kyle remained perfectly still, his face showing no emotion, though his heart was racing. Gathana's voice rang out like a bell, silencing the chaos. War Tactician Velshan, what is your official recommendation to this council? Velshan's scales shifted, moving through a complex pattern of colors. Respect, fear, and something else. Hope. I recommend that humanity be granted Level 7 defensive classification immediately. Furthermore, I recommend the immediate integration of human defense specialists into Council security forces at the highest levels. And I propose something that has never been done before in Council history. I propose that humanity be offered a permanent seat on the Security Subcommittee, with full voting rights. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one spoke. The idea was unthinkable. A species that had been in the Council for barely a few years, being given one of the most powerful positions in galactic security? Finally, the Vraxian ambassador Vexal broke the silence. His mandibles clicked with disbelief. You recommend promoting them? After witnessing the horrors they've built? You want to give them more power? I recommend this precisely because I witnessed those horrors, Velshan said firmly, and because I witnessed the discipline and control that governs them. Honored Council, we have been fortunate. For 8,000 years, we have lived in relative peace. Our wars have been limited. Our conflicts have been manageable. We have forgotten what total war truly means, what desperation looks like, what extinction feels like when it breathes down your neck. Humanity has not forgotten. They remember, and that memory, terrible as it is, makes them invaluable to galactic security. He activated holographic displays showing human defensive installations. Every weapon they showed us has multiple kill switches. Every bioweapon has a corresponding cure. Every doomsday device has safeguards requiring authorization from multiple independent sources. They have built the capacity for mutual destruction on a scale we can barely comprehend. But they have also built the wisdom, the procedures, and the restraint to never use these weapons unless faced with absolute extinction. A new voice entered the debate. Admiral Kessler of the Pelthan Dominion, one of the oldest and most respected military powers in the Council, spoke from her seat. Her species had been spacefaring for over 6,000 years. War Tactician Velshan makes compelling arguments. But I have a question for the humans directly. Why should we trust you? You have shown us weapons that prove you could destroy us all. Why shouldn't we destroy you first before you become a threat? The chamber fell silent again, every being waiting for Kyle's answer. This was the moment that would decide everything. Kyle took a slow, deep breath. Admiral Kessler, with respect, I think you're asking the wrong question. The question isn't why you should trust us. The question is, what happens if you don't? He activated his own holographic display, showing Earth's defensive networks in detail. We didn't build these weapons to threaten the galaxy. We built them because we know what's out there in the dark spaces between stars. In our 40 years of space travel, we have encountered 3 distinct species that don't respond to Council authority. 3 species that view your peaceful intentions as weakness to be exploited. We've fought off raiders who attacked our colony worlds. We've defended shipping lanes that your peacekeepers couldn't reach in time. We've protected smaller species that didn't have the military strength to protect themselves. Danny stepped forward. The Council sees us as paranoid. Maybe we are. But that paranoia kept humanity alive for millions of years on a planet where everything wanted to eat us. And now that we're part of a larger community, that same paranoia makes us the best early warning system you could possibly have. We see threats before they become disasters. We prepare for scenarios that other species dismiss as impossible. We think about the unthinkable, so you don't have to. Dr. Lisa Grant added her voice. We've also done something unprecedented. We've shared our defensive technology data completely with the survey team. Every weapon system, every countermeasure, every contingency protocol. We're not hiding anything. If the Council wants to understand how to defend against the threats we've prepared for, we're willing to teach you. We want to help you protect yourselves. Dexel clicked thoughtfully. You would share your weapons technology with us? Not weapons, Kyle corrected firmly. Defenses. We'll share everything you need to protect Council worlds from the threats we've identified. But the offensive capabilities, the weapons that could crack planets or unmake reality, stay under Earth's control. Call it insurance. Call it deterrence. Call it whatever you want. But we won't arm the entire galaxy with weapons that could destroy existence itself. We'll protect you. We'll defend alongside you. But we won't give you the tools to become what you fear we might become. Coordinator Prill, the gaseous being, swirled with agitation. This sounds like extortion. You're saying trust us with our weapons, or face them, Kyle said, his voice hard. This is an offer of partnership. Work with us. Integrate us into your security structure. Give us a stake in galactic peace, and you'll gain allies who understand warfare in ways you've forgotten. Allies who will fight when fighting becomes necessary. But reject us, sanction us, try to contain us like we're some kind of threat to be managed, and you'll create the very danger you're afraid of. A cornered, paranoid humanity with nothing. To lose and everything to protect is far more dangerous than a humanity that's invested in the security and prosperity of the entire galaxy. He let those words hang in the air before continuing. You have a choice, Council. You can treat us as partners or as prisoners. But understand this. If you choose wrong, if you back us into a corner, you won't get a second chance to correct that mistake. Jathan's crystalline form pulsed with light as she processed everything she'd heard. The Council must deliberate on these matters. Ambassador Harrison, Captain Morris, Dr. Grant, please wait outside while we discuss and vote. The three humans left the chamber and walked through corridors that seemed endless. They found a small waiting room and sat in silence. Each of them was lost in thought, wondering what the future held. Would the Council accept them? Or would humanity find itself alone in the galaxy, isolated by fear? Hours passed. 6 hours of waiting, wondering, hoping. Finally, a council aide came to summon them back. The chamber had changed. The earlier hostility was gone, replaced by something more complicated. Wariness mixed with acceptance. Fear balanced with respect. Jathan spoke, and her crystalline voice carried the weight of official decree. The Galactic Council has reached its decision. After extensive deliberation and voting, humanity is hereby granted Level 7 defensive classification. Effective immediately. Kyle felt tension drained from his shoulders. But Jathan wasn't finished. Furthermore, Earth is designated a protected strategic asset of the Council. No member species may take aggressive military action against humanity without unanimous Council approval, which, given our structure, effectively makes such action impossible. Relief flooded through Kyle. But he kept his expression neutral, waiting for the rest. However, this protection comes with requirements and responsibilities. Humanity will assign 3 senior liaison officers to permanent positions in our security subcommittee. These officers will coordinate with Council forces, provide tactical consultation, and serve as bridges between human and galactic military doctrine. Additionally, Earth will submit to annual inspections to ensure that no new weapon systems have been developed without prior Council notification and approval. Danny spoke up. And our existing offensive capabilities? The weapons we've already built? Jathan's tone became grave. Those remain under human control, as you requested. But understand this clearly. Should humanity ever deploy these weapon systems without explicit Council approval and authorization, Earth will be immediately expelled from the Council. Economic sanctions will be imposed, and military containment will be considered. The galaxy is willing to trust you, humans. Please do not make us regret that trust. Kyle stood straight. We understand completely, Council Speaker. We accept these terms without reservation. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Velshan approached the human delegation. His scales had settled into a deep blue pattern that meant respect and friendship. "You changed the council today," he said quietly. "For 8,000 years, we've operated on the belief that advanced civilizations naturally evolve beyond violence. You've proven that belief is naive at best, dangerous at worst." "We haven't evolved beyond violence," Kyle agreed. "We've just learned to control it, to channel it, to use it only when absolutely necessary. There's a big difference." Velshan nodded. "Yes, and perhaps that difference is exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Welcome to galactic security, humans. I suspect we'll need your particular expertise sooner than anyone expects." 3 months passed after the council vote. Humanity worked hard to integrate into galactic security. 3 senior officers were chosen as liaisons. Admiral Patricia Logan, a veteran with 30 years of strategic planning experience, led the human delegation to the Security Subcommittee. Commander Jake Peterson and Major Susan Clark joined her. Bringing expertise in tactical operations and defensive systems, the Council slowly began to trust humans. Annual inspection teams visited Earth and found everything in order. The Council chamber was filled with beings from 47 different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur, and some were made of light itself. They all wore translation devices that let them understand each other. At the center of the massive room stood Kyle Harrison, the human ambassador. He was nervous, but tried not to show it. Kyle cleared his throat and began speaking. "Honored members of the Council, I come here today with an important request. Earth needs a higher security rating. We believe our home system should have level 7 protection." Almost immediately, strange sounds filled the room. The Varaxian ambassador, a giant bug-like creature named Vexal, made clicking noises. Kyle had learned this meant the alien was laughing. "Ambassador Harrison, humans have only been in space for a short time. You still use bullets and missiles? Level 7 is for planets that can stop threats big enough to destroy entire species." Next to Kyle stood Greg Palmer, a military officer with short gray hair. He pressed a button, and images appeared in the air, showing Earth's satellites and weapon systems orbiting the planet. "We know you don't believe us," Greg said in his calm, soldier voice. "But humans have spent 200 years getting ready for the worst possible attacks. We think you should see what we built." A being made of crystal, the council speaker named Jathan, leaned forward. Her voice sounded like musical bells. "You want us to believe that humans, who only learned to travel faster than light 40 years ago, have better defenses than civilizations that have had spaceships for thousands of years." Kyle looked at the woman standing beside him. Dr. Lisa Grant was Earth's smartest scientist when it came to weapons and defenses. She pushed her glasses up her nose, even though she didn't really need them anymore. "Speaker Jathan, we're not saying we're better than you," Lisa explained carefully. "We're saying we're prepared. Humans have a special history. We fought each other for thousands of years. We learned hard lessons about survival. When we finally stopped fighting ourselves and looked at the stars, we brought those lessons with us." A slug-like alien whose skin glowed with soft colors spoke next. His voice came through a translator box. "We have watched humans. You are aggressive and violent. That's why we didn't let you build weapons for your first 10 years in the Council. You call it preparation. We call it fear and paranoia." Kyle took a deep breath. He knew this would be the hard part. "Then let us prove it. Send your military experts to Earth. Look at our defenses yourselves. See what we built and decide if we're lying." The room exploded with noise. Aliens talked to each other in dozens of languages. Most of them thought humans were just showing off, trying to look tough and important. But Vexal, the bug alien who had laughed at Kyle, stopped clicking. He looked at the human's eyes and saw something that worried him. Kyle wasn't joking. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was trying to warn them. Jathana's crystal body flashed with bright light, which meant she was making an official announcement. "Very well. The Council will send a team to Earth. They will look at your defenses and tell us if your claims are real or not." Kyle nodded, but he didn't smile. He didn't look happy or proud. He looked like someone who just delivered bad news that nobody wanted to hear. As the meeting ended and aliens started leaving the chamber, Greg leaned close to Kyle and whispered, "They think we're playing pretend. They think we're children with toys." Kyle replied quietly, "Let them think that. At least until they see what happens when children have nuclear bombs, quantum computers, and 200 years of nightmares about being invaded." Later that night, Kyle sat in his small apartment on the council station. He looked out the window at the stars and thought about Earth. He thought about the weapons hidden on the moon, buried under mountains, floating in orbit around his home world. He thought about the scientists who built them and the soldiers who guarded them. Lisa came to visit him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You did good today," she said, sitting down across from him. "They agreed to come look. I think it's a joke," Kyle said, taking the coffee. "They don't understand what fear does to a species. They've never had to wonder if tomorrow someone might destroy everything they love." "Most species haven't," Lisa agreed. "Most of them met other aliens when they were already advanced. They joined the council and never had to worry about being conquered or wiped out. They don't know what it's like to be prey." Kyle remembered the history lessons from school. Humans had almost destroyed themselves dozens of times. Nuclear wars were barely avoided. Plagues, climate disasters, asteroid impacts. Earth had come close to dying so many times that preparing for extinction became normal. When humans finally built spaceships and found other intelligent life, their first thought wasn't excitement. It was terror. What if these aliens wanted to hurt them? What if space was full of threats worse than anything humans had imagined? So Earth built defenses. Not normal defenses. Defenses designed by a species that had nightmares about dying. Weapons that could crack planets. Diseases that could kill specific alien species. Machines that could bend reality itself. And humans built all of it in secret, quietly, while the council thought they were just a young species learning to fit in. "Do you think they'll understand?" Lisa asked. "When they see what we built, will they get it?" Kyle sipped his coffee. "Some will. The smart ones, like Velshan from the Kryn, he'll understand. He's fought real wars. But most of them," he shook his head, "they'll be scared. They'll want to lock us away or put restrictions on us. They'll see our weapons and think we're dangerous." "We are dangerous," Lisa pointed out. "Yes," Kyle agreed. "But we're dangerous to our enemies, not our friends. That's what I hope they'll see. That's why I warned them before they came to Earth. I wanted them to know we weren't hiding anything. We're showing them everything because we want them to trust us." Greg contacted them through the communication device. The council just announced the inspection team. 12 species, led by war tactician Velshan. They'll arrive at Earth in 3 weeks. Kyle and Lisa looked at each other. 3 weeks until the galaxy saw what humans were really capable of. 3 weeks until everything changed. "Tell Earth to get ready," Kyle said into the communicator. "Full disclosure. Show them everything. Every weapon, every defense, every nightmare we built. Let them see what happens when a species refuses to die quietly." As Greg confirmed and ended the call, Kyle looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting. His home planet covered in weapons that could end civilizations. Protected by humans who loved peace but prepared for war. Defended by people who hoped for the best, but always planned for the worst. The council was about to learn that humans didn't laugh at danger. They built bigger guns and waited for danger to come knocking. The council ship appeared near Earth's moon 3 weeks later. It was called the Harmonious Endeavor, and it carried 12 military experts from different alien species. Leading them was Velashan, a reptile-like creature whose skin changed colors based on his mood. Right now, his scales were blue-gray, which meant he was skeptical and didn't believe what humans had told the council. Danny. Morris waited for them at Luna Station, the biggest human military base built on the moon. Danny was young for a commander, only 35 years old, but his eyes looked older. He had spent years running combat simulations, preparing for wars that might never happen. Those simulations had aged him in ways that didn't show on his face. "Welcome to Luna Station," Danny said, holding out his hand. Velshan looked at the hand for a moment before shaking it. His scales were still that doubtful blue-gray color. Captain Morris, Velshan replied through his translator device. We are here to check the claims you made. Claims that we find very hard to believe. Please show us these defenses that you think deserve level 7 rating. Danny smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Of course. But first you need to sign some papers. And you'll need to wear neural dampeners for parts of the tour. The aliens immediately started arguing. A being made of gas inside a clear suit asked, neural dampeners. That violates council rules for inspections. It's required for certain areas, Danny explained. Some of our weapons work on information. Just knowing about them can be dangerous. We'll remove the dampeners as soon as those sections are done. Your minds will be fine. Velshan's scales flickered with annoyance, turning slightly orange. This is strange and irregular. So are humans, Danny replied simply. You wanted to see our defenses. These are the rules. The aliens didn't like it, but they agreed. The tour started in the normal sections. Railguns that shot metal at incredible speeds. Lasers that could cut through ship armor. Missile launchers loaded with antimatter warheads. These weapons were impressive for humans, but the aliens had seen better technology. They had shields and disruption beams that were far more advanced. Then Danny took them deeper into Luna Station, down into sections that didn't appear on any public maps. The first real shock came at a place called Facility 17. It was buried 3 kilometers under the moon's surface. A woman named Dr. Helen Foster met them there. She was smiling, which made the aliens nervous. Why would someone smile in a weapons lab? Welcome to the Causality Lab, Helen said cheerfully. Causality? Velshan repeated the word carefully. You mean time weapons? Not exactly. Human advisors helped upgrade defensive systems on 12 different worlds. Slowly, carefully, a partnership was forming. But Velshan's words proved prophetic sooner than anyone expected. It started with distress signals from the outer colonies. Remote settlements on the edge of council space reported strange attacks. Ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating force, and vanished before defenses could respond. The attacks followed no pattern the council recognized. Civilian transports were destroyed. Mining stations went silent. Research outposts simply disappeared. Council peacekeepers responded but found nothing. No debris, no evidence. Just empty space where colonies had been. The attacks continued, growing bolder. Within 2 weeks, 15 settlements had been hit. Thousands of beings were dead or missing. The Security Subcommittee held an emergency session. Representatives from 20 different species crowded into the war room, studying tactical displays that showed the attack patterns. Admiral Patricia Logan stood among them, watching and listening as alien military officers argued about response strategies. We should increase patrols, suggested a Vraxian commander. More ships in the outer sectors. That hasn't worked, countered a Pelthan admiral. These attackers avoid our patrols completely. They strike where we aren't. Then we need better sensors, another voice called out. Patricia had been quiet, analyzing the data. Now she spoke up. It won't help. These attacks are using quantum displacement technology.
The room fell silent.
All eyes turned to the human admiral. What do you mean? Asked the subcommittee chair. Patricia pulled up holographic displays showing the attack data. Look at the pattern. No energy signatures before the attacks. No FTL wake trails. No residual radiation. The attackers aren't traveling through normal space. They're shifting through alternate dimensions, bypassing your shields and sensors completely. They attack from a different dimensional layer, then shift back before you can respond. That's theoretical technology, a Calarian officer protested. No one has successfully weaponized dimensional travel. These attackers have, Patricia said flatly. And your current defenses can't stop them because you're trying to fight a 3-dimensional battle against enemies operating in 4 or more dimensions. The chair leaned forward. Can this threat be countered? Do we have any defense against dimensional attacks? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said humanity has a countermeasure. We designed it 17 years ago as part of a worst-case scenario planning exercise. We called it the Lighthouse Protocol. You have a defense against dimensional warfare. The chair's voice mixed disbelief with hope. Why didn't you tell us about this? Because until now, dimensional warfare was theoretical, Patricia explained. We didn't want to seem paranoid, preparing for threats that didn't exist. But now they do exist. And if you want to stop these attacks, you need to activate Lighthouse. What does it do? Asked Velshan, who had joined the session remotely. Patricia brought up technical specifications. Lighthouse uses a network of specialized satellites to stabilize dimensional space in a given area. It locks reality into a single-dimensional state, preventing any kind of quantum displacement. Ships using dimensional travel find themselves suddenly trapped in normal space, where conventional weapons can target them. The implications sank in slowly. You designed a defense against an attack method that didn't exist, the chair said slowly. A method we didn't even think was possible. That's what humans do, Patricia said simply. We prepare for impossible threats. It's our specialty. The decision was made quickly. Humanity would deploy the Lighthouse Protocol to the outer colonies. Human defensive satellites would be installed throughout the affected regions. But deploying the system would take time. Time the colonies didn't have. 2 days later, the attack struck again. This time they hit a major colony world called Paxthur 7, home to 3 million beings. The attackers appeared without warning, their weapons tearing through orbital defenses as if they weren't there. Panic spread as colony ships tried to evacuate civilians. On Earth, Captain Danny Morris received the distress call in the Defense Command Center. He watched the tactical displays showing Paxthur 7 under attack. Colony ships were being destroyed. The death count was rising by the second. How long until we can deploy Lighthouse to that system? Danny demanded. 4 hours minimum, replied the operations officer. The satellites are still in transport. They don't have 4 hours, Danny said grimly. He made a decision that would change everything. Activate local Lighthouse now. Use our home defense grid, sir. The operations officer looked shocked. That will reveal the full extent of our dimensional stabilization network. The Council will know we have Lighthouse technology deployed throughout human space, not just at Earth. I know, Danny said. Do it anyway. We can explain later. Right now, people are dying. Commands flash through the system. On Luna Station and orbital platforms around Earth, on bases throughout the solar system, specialized transmitters activated. They sent a signal through quantum space, a signal that traveled faster than light itself, reaching Paxthur 7 in seconds instead of hours. The effect was immediate and dramatic. In orbit around Paxthur 7, reality suddenly stabilized. The dimensional attackers, in the middle of shifting between layers of space, found themselves yanked into normal space. Their ships appeared on sensors for the first time, and suddenly they were vulnerable. The colony's defensive systems, which had been firing uselessly into empty space, now had actual targets. Energy weapons locked onto the attackers' ships. Missiles launched. Within minutes, 3 attacker vessels were destroyed. The remaining ships tried to flee, but without dimensional displacement, they couldn't escape. Council reinforcements arrived and captured 2 enemy ships intact in the Security Subcommittee war room. Everyone watched in amazement as the battle turned. The mysterious, unstoppable attackers had been defeated. Patricia stood quietly, knowing that the questions would come soon. They did. Within an hour, the subcommittee chair contacted her directly. Admiral Logan, how did you activate Lighthouse from Earth? The system shouldn't have that range. It doesn't, Patricia admitted. Not from satellites and transport. But humanity has Lighthouse transmitters permanently installed throughout our controlled space. We've had them for 15 years. The silence on the other end was heavy with realization. Finally, the chair spoke. You've had dimensional stabilization technology deployed for 15 years. Around all your worlds? Yes, Patricia confirmed. It was part of our defensive planning. We theorized that if dimensional warfare was possible, someone would eventually develop it. So we prepared a counter-defense and deployed it quietly. This violates your agreement with the Council, the chair said, but there was no anger in the voice. Just weary acceptance. You were supposed to notify us of all defensive deployments. The agreement was signed 3 months ago, Patricia pointed out. Lighthouse was deployed 15 years ago. Before we joined the Council, before we knew you existed, we built it to protect ourselves, not to hide it from you. A new voice joined the conversation. Council Speaker Jathan. Admiral Logan, you saved 3 million lives today. You deployed a defensive system that the Council didn't know existed. Some members will be angry about this. They'll say you deceived us. And what do you say, Speaker? Patricia asked. Jathan was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her crystalline voice carried something that might have been approval. I say that Velshan was right. Humanity prepares for threats that the rest of us can't even imagine. And today, that preparation saved millions of lives. The Council should be grateful, not angry. Over the next week, Lighthouse satellites were deployed throughout Council space. The dimensional attacks stopped completely. Analysis of the captured enemy ships revealed a hostile species from outside Council territory. Raiders who had developed dimensional travel and used it to prey on what they thought were defenseless colonies. With Lighthouse active, they were just another enemy using normal space technology. Council forces drove them back beyond the borders. The crisis ended. In the aftermath, the Security Subcommittee held another session. This time, there were no arguments or debates. Admiral Kessler, the Pelthan officer who had questioned humanity's trustworthiness, stood to speak. 3 months ago, I asked why we should trust humans, she said. I suggested we might need to destroy them before they became a threat. Today, I have my answer. We should trust them because when 3 million lives were at stake, they didn't hesitate. They revealed capabilities they could have kept hidden. They saved people who aren't even human, who live on worlds humanity has no claim to. They did this knowing it would cause political problems, knowing some of us would be angry about hidden defensive systems. She looked directly at Patricia through the video link. Admiral Logan, the Pelthan Dominion formally apologizes for doubting humanity's intentions. You have proven yourselves to be exactly what you claimed. Protectors, defenders, partners. Patricia nodded in acknowledgement. Admiral Kessler, humanity doesn't want thanks or apologies. We want what we've always wanted. To live in peace, to protect those who can't protect themselves, to make sure that when threats emerge from the dark, we're ready to face them. Velshan spoke next, his scales showing proud blue. The Council has learned an important lesson. Humanity's paranoia isn't a flaw. It's a feature, a survival trait that benefits everyone. When we dismissed their warnings, we laughed at their defensive classification request. We thought they were exaggerating. Now we know better. Council Speaker Jathan made an official announcement. Effective immediately, humanity's role in the Security Subcommittee is expanded. Human advisors will be integrated into defensive planning for all Council worlds. Furthermore, the annual inspection requirement is suspended. Humanity has proven they can be trusted with advanced defensive technology. Later that day, Kyle Harrison met with Danny Morris and Patricia Logan in a secure conference room on the Council station. They looked tired but satisfied. We did it, Kyle said. We proved ourselves. Got lucky, Danny corrected. If those raiders had waited another month, we might not have had Lighthouse ready. But we did have it ready, Patricia pointed out. Because we prepared for something that seemed impossible. That's the difference between humans and everyone else. We don't wait for threats to appear before thinking about solutions. Kyle looked out the window at the stars. Do you think they finally understand? That our weapons, our paranoia, our preparations, they're not about conquest or domination. Some do, Patricia said. The smart ones, like Velsian and Kessler. They get it. But there will always be species that fear us. That think we're too dangerous, too militaristic, too focused on war. Let them think that, Danny said. As long as they remember what happened at Paxthar 7, as long as they remember that when people were dying, humans were the ones who saved them. Kyle nodded. Velshan was right about something else too. He said the galaxy would need our expertise sooner than expected. This was just the first test. There will be others. Threats we haven't imagined yet, and we'll be ready for them, Patricia said with certainty. Because that's what humans do. We prepare, plan. We build defenses against nightmares. And when those nightmares become real, We're the ones standing between them and everyone else. Across the galaxy, on council worlds and human colonies, life returned to normal. But things had changed. Humanity was no longer the strange, paranoid species that built too many weapons. They were the guardians who saved millions, the protectors who prepared for impossible threats, and in the dark spaces between stars, in dimensions humans were already mapping and analyzing, other threats waited. Threats that didn't know yet that they would face a species that refused to be prey. A species that turned fear into preparation, paranoia into protection, and weapons into shields. The galaxy had stopped laughing at Earth's defenses. Now they were grateful those defenses existed, and humanity quietly continued doing what they'd always done. Watching the darkness, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. And when the next threat emerged, as it inevitably would, the galaxy would know exactly who to call.